Welcome to Guy Talk. Darrell, I appreciate you coming. I'm Guy Gravino, as you know. Darrell and I have known each other for, God, almost 45 years now.
Yeah.
45 years.
Yep.
And I'd like to give a little bio about you so everybody knows a little bit about your background.
Okay.
Darrell's a former Special Forces Green Beret, leadership consultant, overseas contractor, worked through Southeast Asia, Middle East, Democratic Republic of Congo, which I joined him on that. Mr. Davis has never written a book, anything about his accomplishments, nor has consulted in any movies.
That's correct.
But his most important thing is he has 4 children, almost 9 grandchildren, and a great-grandchild. He currently resides in Florida with his wife. Pretty much everything to say about you.
That's my life in a nutshell.
In a nutshell. And I got to say, I was glad to be a part of a lot of that. What we're going to talk about today, what I want to talk to you about today, and you're going to educate me as well, because I was old school when I went through Special Forces training. You were an old school guy as well, but you were involved in developing a new phase of Special Forces training. And I'd like to have you explain a little bit about that, and that would be the Special Forces Assessment Selection Program. That was pre-May, and you developed this when?
Excuse me, 1988.
And what brought that on?
So there was a couple of things that was happening in the community at that time. Under the current program at that time, we would physically move families from Europe or Asia or wherever they were stationed if the husband wanted to qualify for Special Forces to Fort Bragg. That was tens of thousands of dollars.
Lots of money.
And that was one reason they were trying to cut the cost down on that. The other portion of that was they were looking to find how to move our termination rate of the Q course out of the Q course itself into a selection program.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody's not going to make it, we could pretty much weed them out there, and it improves their chances of making it to the Q course.
So it was like an early vetting process before you went into that course, and it was shorter. You really didn't have to PCS their whole family, permanent change of station.
Right.
Okay.
They would come on temporary duty orders. They would come in for the extension or for the time of the program, and then go back. If they were selected, they went back to the unit, orders to follow on, then their families, and then moved in
that makes sense.
to Fort Bragg.
Mm-hmm.
So we started that in 1988. Mm-hmm. That was when it started.
1988. And how did you end up being on that committee that developed that?
So I was working in phase 1 at the time, teaching combat patrolling. We did the land navigation combat patrolling.
Phase 1 of the SF qualification course.
Correct. And we, in a little bit of survival training. And, the word on the street was that they were starting this new selection program. They'd taken volunteers. So I never saw anything I couldn't volunteer for. So I jumped on that, and I was selected to be one of the original assessors in that program.
How many were there? How many were selected for that?
The actual Special Forces qualified assessors there was 10 of us.
10 of us.
And then we had 2 logistics and admin guys.
Were they from all the different specialties, all the different 18 series that were in there?
No, it didn't. At that point in time, it didn't matter what your job was in Special Forces. We were looking for assessors. It didn't depend on the qualifications of your position in Special Forces.
Good to know. And I'm asking these questions because I didn't go through it, and I really don't know what it's about either. So I'm learning as our audience is learning. Tell me, what was the conversation on how we do this? Was there any former model that you had, or was this something that you created out of thin air? Or what was the guidance and direction you were given?
So we didn't have a lot of guidance and direction. We were looking this ice cream cone. So what ended up happening is we read a book called The Selection of Men about the OSS in World War II, sort of see how that program was. And then we watched a movie called In Search of the Golden Road about the 22nd SAS. And that gave us an idea, sort of a left and right perimeter, if you will, on on how we want to sort of structure our program. We got some ideas for events out of the movie, and then we looked at in some of the stuff that the OSS was doing.
What particular things jumped out at you with, say, the old OSS?
What was really remarkable to me, given what they did during World War II, they only had 2 selection programs. One was 24 hours, and one was 72 hours. The admin guys, the support people had a 24-hour, and the operators had a 72-hour selection process.
And that was it.
And
they were super soldiers.
They went out and lit up the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And what about the SAS? That was the other end of it, where it was a little bit longer training, a little bit more in depth.
Right, and a little more grueling. Had a lot more
physical challenges,
event challenges, team building stuff, or team assessing, and that's where we got a lot of the ideas for the type of activities, because we didn't even fully understand the type of activities we'd use during Team Week.
Right.
We had no idea.
So Team Week, when you're talking Team Week, you mean more of the collective stuff that you had to build into that?
Correct. So when we set the program up initially, it was 21 days.
Okay.
You had a day of in processing, day of out processing, 19 days in between. So you had about a week of land navigation, some running, rucking, kind of things, and then we had 3 days of what we were using. The candidates saw it as downtime, basically, and it was. We were given a chance to sort of recoup during that program or during that period of time. But what we did is we used it also for psychological evaluations and our first board. And then we went in after that portion of it. Then we went into the Team Week, and then after that we had our final board, and then the out process.
So like individual stuff and then collective stuff.
Correct.
In between, you did psyche vows.
And in our first board.
What kind of psyche vows did they did, and what kind of things were they discovering?
I don't know what they did. What type of psyche vow they did.
Did you have to get one?
A couple of them.
How'd you do with that?
I passed. So some say. Anyway, so yes, they would do the psyche vows, and I remember on a number of classes, the psych call out to camp, and he'd say, "Get roster number 22 and roster number 73. Take everything sharp away from them. Take their pyrotechnics away from them, and move them into the Victor Whiskey voluntary withdrawal barracks. I'll be out there in an hour." And that's all I knew.
Did they have many of them?
We probably had 1 or 2 a class.
1 or 2 a class.
Our most famous one, and it happened after I left, was Timothy McVeigh.
And Timothy McVeigh was who?
He was the Oklahoma City bomber.
So he was in your selection, in the Special Forces assessment selection course, was found out to be unstable, and then released back to the regular
society. Well, the regular army, and then
they
left
him
the
out.
military.
Wow. So they did pick up one real threat anyway.
Yeah.
For sure. Oh, wow. What were some of the physical challenges? I said the rucking and all. Was there standards to the for the individual stuff? I'm sure they had it for both, but how did they do that with the students? I mean, I know that when I went through courses that you were told that this is what you had to do. You had to do it so much time, or you had to be in this group. If you were out on a ruck, you had to do so many miles and so much time. How did that work through the SFAS?
So again, we had no idea. We're starting from ground zero.
Mm-hmm.
So after watching the movie, we went out to. They have a place in the military where if they're getting rid of equipment, that they move it all over there, and then they'll put it out for auction if somebody wants to buy a Humvee or a Jeep or whatever it was.
Yeah, like a mail truck.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah. They could go through there and they could buy it. So there was a bunch of stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went over there and we just started looking around and seeing what we could find. Getting ideas, come back, set out there, generate ideas on what we could do for Team Week. And then once we sort of figured that out, we had the basic structure of the course. We knew we were going to have the land nav and some rucking and running. And then we knew we were going to have this downtime. We knew we were going to have the events. Now we got to figure out a lot of the big challenges was, what are the characteristics that we're looking for in these soldiers? That's where we did a lot of work with the psychologists and stuff like that. And so we sat down with them, we started talking about that. Then we started looking at how we're going to run the course as far as in the military, in the Army anyway, you're told task, condition, and standard.
Right.
Well, we didn't want them to know the standard. So we had to figure out, how do we determine the standard? So our commanding officer, Major Belke, came up with this really, really good idea and said, we'll validate it. And I was like, so what's validation mean, sir? He goes, we're going to go through the program as assessors. And it was great because we were able to determine what does abnormally good and abnormally bad behavior looks like in this situation of stress. And that's the only way you're going to know in this program, because nobody had ever done it.
Right.
So we went through the process of building the characteristics, and then we had to validate the program.
Going back to where you were going over to look at equipment that was being put out for sale in the civilian market. I mean, what kind of equipment were you looking for, and what was it for? Were you looking for trucks, or were you looking for parts of trucks? I have seen videos, and I'm sure our audience has too, videos of some of the tasks involved on moving stuff. Is that where that stuff came from?
Yeah.
So and why did you go there? Is it because of a lack of funding? I mean, why were you doing it?
Yeah. So when General Guest directed Colonel Potter to stand this up, he said, oh, by the way, you have no budget. We literally had no budget. We were going around. Colonel Potter told all the other committees at the Special Warfare Center, hey, these guys are going to come around asking for stuff, give it to them. So we literally walked around to get administrative supplies. We walked around with trash bags, and I'd go over to the weapons department or the commo department. Hey, you got some?
So the cadre were bag people.
Yeah, we were basically, yeah.
Basically bag people.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, that skill paid off later in life. But anyway, yeah. So we had no funding, so we had to find materials. So where best to go to where they're throwing away stuff, and we weren't looking for anything in particular because we didn't know what we were doing.
Right.
So as we walked around, we were like, man, I bet you take the wheel off of that Jeep trailer and make them push it for 15 kilometers. That's going to stress them out. That'll work.
And then we could throw some weight on top of it.
Sure.
And then give them rope to that kind of stuff and see how they figure it out.
Yeah. And then we're adding 55-gallon drums. We'll fill a couple of those up and let them haul those.
So part of the qualifications to be on this committee, this cadre, was to be a masochist
and I'd been a drill sergeant in the Army, so it came easy.
So it was easy.
Yeah, it was easy.
So once you got through the individual stuff, I mean, and you got into there was land nav involved. Was that in the individual?
Yeah.
Or was that in the? Okay. So tell me about the land nav part of it.
So now we had already validated everything, so we already had the standard that we knew.
Mm-hmm.
So if we did something in 4 hours, we'd give them 5.5 hours, depending on what the situation was. But we couldn't let them know the standard. So our first set of candidates that we got were out of training students that had been dropped from the Q course for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. They were waiting to be recycled and get back in. So the colonel put them all on trucks, sent them out to us. So they come to us, we get ready to put them through these land navigation. And again, we didn't have a budget. We didn't have trucks. We used privately owned vehicles, pickup trucks. I had an SUV. I took the back seat out. We stuffed students in there.
Cattle cart.
Yeah, I was a cattle car driver.
Mini cattle cart.
And we took them out to the land. It was like a military Uber.
Military Uber.
So we took them out to our land nav points, and we cut them loose. And everybody sat out there as people came through. And then we're like, okay, it's been 4 hours, 5 hours, whatever the standard was. We need to stop this thing. Well, the students didn't know that.
Right.
We had put no control times in.
Right.
So we'd take students out at 7 o'clock in the morning, and we wouldn't find them till 5 o'clock in the evening.
Which was cutting into happy hour.
Well, it was cutting into the nighttime land movement.
Oh, okay.
Land navigation. So we finally figured out, okay, we have to have a cutoff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when we developed, okay, if we're going to give them 5.5 hours, we just tell them, hey, it's not the standard. This is a control time. You have 6 hours. If you haven't completed this in 6 hours, move to the nearest road. If it's daytime, sit on your ruck. We'll come by and get you. If it's nighttime, turn on your strobe, and we'll find you. But we had guys take off from Camp McCall and end up at the raceway in Rockingham, North Carolina.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know how many miles. That's 10, 12, 15 miles. And they're on a 4-kilometer movement.
And they didn't get that with
They didn't pick up that they were.
Now, we should probably also stipulate that you guys setting these standards that you didn't pass on to them were Special Forces qualified operations detachment guys. So you had skills already, and you already were making those movements. You were making that movement in 4 hours. These guys are new that are coming in and haven't done that before. So we're gonna give them that time to, I guess, that fudge time, that hour and a half that you guys built in.
Yeah.
To say, and then after 6 hours, you're going to have a recall mechanism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And that was, when we were doing it, because we had talked about it, we knew what that event was.
Right.
On the team side, land nav's land nav. You go out and you do it, and then we just sort of took a median time of everybody and said, okay, this is what we're going to do. That's 4 hours. We're going to give them, 4.5 or 5.5, 6 hours. But we knew even on the event side, we knew what the events were.
Right.
We had thought them up, put them together. So we felt we had an advantage from that point. And so when we finished the movement, we looked at the time again, give them a couple extra hours. That's going to be the standard.
Okay, so tell me something about the team, the collective part of it, the team stuff. What did you guys do with that? You brought these guys together. Now they all demonstrated that they had skills. They all demonstrated they had endurance, strength, some leadership. Maybe not leadership, but endurance and perseverance. And then you brought them through the site stuff, the classroom work, into a team. How did you do that? How did you form those teams? And what were you sliding them into as for that collective training?
So the way we selected the teams it was very scientific. We would take the class roster and we'd say, okay, we're going to put 12 men on a team. Okay, first 12, you're on that team. Second 12, it was very scientific.
Very scientific.
Second 12, you're on that team. And that's the way we.
That was it.
That was it.
And what did you try? What were their tasks and stuff for that? They were different than what you did in the individual. What were they training to do then?
We didn't train anybody. We assessed.
Okay.
So.
What were the tasks and the challenges?
So there was the task that I invented. I'm very proud of, I might say.
I'll bet.
Yeah. Was the water can carry.
Oh.
So a team of 12 people would get 15, 16 water cans. And it was a 2-mile movement, and they were told to do it as fast as they can. Well, we told them to do the best you can. And so we'd take one can, and we'd only fill it half full. And there was a mark on that can that all the assessors would recognize. And then you'd watch that can during that whole 2-mile movement. You see who figured out that this can's only half full, and did he share that? Or if he saw somebody struggling, he'd say, here, this one feels or seems to be lighter. You take this one, I'll take your heavier one. And see if that kind of thing happened, or if somebody just found the light one, kept it the whole way. We got his roster number. He got a red check at the end.
And the purpose of that was?
It's an integrity test, sort of see if he's going to be a team player, if he's going to look
team player thing you were looking
if he's
for.
going to look at the weak guy,
right,
or somebody that's struggling, and say, hey,
right,
do this, take this one.
So there was only one out of those cans that were
one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Were they all like that? All those challenges like that, or just?
No, just that one. We had sandbag carry. You had to fill sandbags, and there was an old World War II rifle range, and it had these mounds between the ranges, and so they had to take these sandbags full of sand, and we always gave them, if you got 12 guys, we're going to give you, you know, 20 sandbags to fill. So it was up and down, back and forth, back and forth.
And they didn't know, and it was for time, but they didn't know the standard.
They didn't know. We'll tell you when to stop.
So you didn't tell them that do the best you can. You were counting on them to that was a self-motivating thing. We don't know what the standards are, so we got to go as hard as we got to go,
right,
in order to get that done.
You know, when we first set the program up, and our command sergeant, or our sergeant major, he wasn't command sergeant, he was sergeant major of our company. Major Velke, Jim Velke was our commander. Danny Hobson was our command sergeant, or our sergeant major, company sergeant major, and then Mike Dumford was our XO. And so Danny come out of Delta, and he knew, and the way they did it over there is you just go to the board. The uniform of the day is on the board. Where you're supposed to be the next time, it's on the board. It's on the board. Go to the board. And so that's sort of the way we played it. We put the board. They looked at the board. We gave them no positive or negative reinforcement, because and the psychologists talked to us about this, if you interject yourself into that environment, into that equation, what happens is, if you tell a guy, man, that was a great run, he's like, now he's pumped up. Now he's feeling like, okay, I'm ahead of the game here. I can really pour it on, And if you tell a guy, hey, you need to pick up the pace, that could be a motivating factor, even though it's a negative, be taken in a negative connotation. That could be a motivating factor, because he's like, or if you say something to the effect of, if you keep this pace up, you're not going to make it, pal.
Right.
You need to pick it up. All of a sudden, you've interjected yourself into that equation psychologically, and you've either motivated or demotivated somebody. And the psychologist and Danny said, we're not going to do that. If a guy passed me running a 4-minute mile or a 14-minute mile, he got the same reaction. Do the best you can.
So the mind games continued.
Oh, we had a lot of little mind games. My favorite one was on land navigation. Is a guy would come to me I was his last point.
Right.
But I'd look on the map, and I'd see a point that was and he may have like 30 minutes left before the cutoff time. And I'd find him that if he did it, he's probably 40 minutes away. But if he was really good, he could make it in under 30. And I'd say, let me see where. And so I'd give him his net grits coordinate. And I'd say, make sure you check in with me before you leave. And he'd go over and he'd plot it. And I'm watching him. He'd come back to me and he'd say, Sergeant Davis, I'm taking off. I'd say, okay. But first of all, he'd go over there and plot it. And then look at it. And I'm watching him. He'd go, oh, man. So then he'd plot it. He'd come back to me. And he'd take off. And I'd watch him I'd let him get about 100 yards down the road. I'd say, hey, I'd call him back up. Boss number 22, come here. I'd look at his plot. I'd look at my watch. You're done. Go sit down.
Right.
He thinks he's failed.
Right.
And he's just.
That's a great little mind game.
Oh, yeah.
I remember going through, when I was going through the qualification course, Major Howard was the commandant out there at the time. And coming back from a ruck that he led, and I could see that front gate. And I was like, I can make it. And he went right by that front gate, and my heart went, he's going to go out the back. But what I didn't know is he was going to take us around the side by where the repelling tower was, get us in the shade so we can cool off instead of being in that hot sun.
Yeah.
And I remember that to this day, on how bad I felt when he went by, took that left face and went around the side. I was like, oh my God, here we go.
We're gonna make another lap.
You got to hang on. You got to hang on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing. And
yeah.
But I think what you guys were doing, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys were doing was imposing that all on those individuals that were going through it in their own head. You weren't, like when you were saying, not interjecting yourself into any of that, just doing the assessment, and then whatever they thought they were doing, let them think it. Let them think if they were doing right or wrong, and continue to go harder until until the process was over.
You know, we had, I've seen videos today. If you go on YouTube, you can find videos. And I'm not taking anything away from the guys that are out there doing it today. They're on the ground. I don't question the guys on the ground. However, it seems to me like there's a lot of motivating and demotivating behavior on the parts of the assessor.
Oh, the newer cadre?
Yeah, the newer cadre. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of, I don't want to call it screaming and hollering, but I can't figure out another word. There was a lot of screaming and hollering and telling people, pick it up, do this kind of stuff. We would go out on a movement in the team week, and they're going to make 2 movements in the day, and they're going to be 12 to 15 kilometers each. Mm-hmm. And we figured, we were going to take probably 10, 12 hours maybe, depending on how it goes. Mm-hmm. There were days I was out there 16 hours. We left when the sun was down, and we got home when the sun was down. Mm-hmm. And that's what you did. Mm-hmm. And if it took all day to get the events ran, then that's what you did. You didn't try to push anybody. You didn't cut anything short. This was the mission, and that's what we're going to do. And I saw today, or not today, but recently, in looking at some of the stuff on YouTube, in that they would cut things short, mm-hmm. Talking to the assessor. Yeah, I've been out here all day. We're going to shut this thing down. It's not going anywhere.
Right. Did you guys run them through the nasty neck out there?
No.
No, that was just for this.
That was for the Q course. Yeah, face training.
Okay. I saw.
I don't remember running them through there.
Because I just saw.
They may have,
and I think they're doing it now.
Are they? Yeah.
I think. Yeah. I saw something on the selection of a YouTuber thing, and I think they brought in a celebrity with a wannabe. Did you see it?
Yeah, I saw it.
And they put them through, and I think they ran them through the nasty neck.
They did.
Okay, I said, but when you did it, they didn't run them through the nasty.
You know what I'm trying to remember, because I was instructing in phase 1 before that, and that's right. Where they went through it then.
Right.
And so I don't remember. I don't recall that we put them through that, because what we put them through was pretty arduous. Yeah. I mean, I can tell you right now, I've seen feats of human endurance and ingenuity that I've never seen on an A-team. I mean, I saw guys cut out the back of their boots and put socks over the outside of them because their blisters were so bad, but they didn't want to stop and they didn't want sand in their boots. I mean, I saw guys get on all 4 during one of those team events, and rather than take a break and do a rucksack flop, they would get on their hands and knees against the side of the road and just lift their feet off the ground. And that was their break. And then they got up and went.
Why would they do that? Just so they can get back up?
Yeah. Yeah. They're afraid if they sat down, they couldn't
get back up.
Yeah.
Wow.
I saw guys do our final ruck march with stress fractures, broken bones in their feet. They wouldn't quit.
And that's what you guys were looking for. That's what you're looking for. So you said it was 19 days or 21 days, 19 days of actual training. Is it still that way, or is it more now?
I saw something online where they went to 24 days. So I'm not sure right now.
Okay.
What the length is.
And when were you down there? What was your time frame down there?
We started in the summer of '88, and I left in the summer of '90.
So you were actually part of the cadre once the course was certified.
I was a part of the cadre the day we walked into an empty building with no chairs, tables, or a budget.
Okay, but you actually were training other people besides torturing each other.
No, at first it was just us torturing each other.
Right, and then
we got some other people
to torture other people. Oh, good for you.
Yeah. Well,
share the wealth.
Yeah, and there's a little known fact. I mean, some of the guys know that they were in there in the early days. Some of the people that went through. It started out as SFOT, not SFAS.
And what does that mean?
We called it Special Forces Orientation and Training.
Huh, I didn't know that either.
But we realized we weren't orienting or training anybody. We were assessing and selecting, and then that's when it moved to SFAS.
And that was in '88?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting. What was the pass select ratio or fail select ratio?
So it was high. So there was a couple of different categories that people fell into. A lot of them be, voluntary withdrawals, and then we had the boards. So we had two boards. We had two boards, and we had and then you had the people that voluntarily terminated, and then you had medical drops. You always had some medical drops, which is really the hardest because those guys, I mean, they were giving it everything they got, and get medical, man, that's tough.
Yeah.
So the attrition rate overall in those early days was probably running, and Colonel Potter and Sergeant Major Hobson, attrition rate wasn't, and they didn't really care about that because they were trying to make sure that the people that made it through the Q course. That's what they cared about. And so our attrition rate probably ran somewhere between 75, 85% in the beginning. And then it's like anything else. As time goes, people talk. It used to be in when we first started that if you talk to somebody that went through SFAS, they wouldn't tell anybody. It's like, no, you need to experience that.
Yeah, you'll love it.
Yeah. Now you can go online and find, preparatory courses for SFAS.
To get prepared. So the mind games aren't as intense.
Well, I think the mind games can still be played, but it's the physical fitness. But you know what? All of that, you can be ready for anything. We went through scuba school, dive supervisor course together. We've been through the Q course together. I mean, you can be ready physically, but too many other aspects.
I know from my perspective, I was running, getting ready to go to the Q course, just doing everything that I thought was right. And I don't think I should have been running as much. I think I should have been rucking more.
Yeah.
The front of my legs were weak. The back of my legs were strong. And running, the back of your legs are stronger. Rucking, the front of your legs are stronger.
Yeah.
So it was a gut check for me to get through a lot of that, a lot of the first phase of it. By the time, after a couple of weeks of it, though, the legs were fine. And you were going just fine. But that first couple of weeks was a gut check.
Sure.
Same thing probably would apply to this. If you get online and there's preparatory classes, they know they probably figure out what their standards are too.
Well,
and you change them up.
Oh, we changed them up. No class was the same.
And the tasks probably were changed.
Tasks changed every class.
Awesome.
And you were constantly redeveloping and bringing in new tasks.
Right.
So when we were between classes, again, we were coming up with other things for them to do during team week and validating those and then going back in and integrating those into the course as we went. So there was an evolution as we went through the program, and I'm sure it existed after we left. I'm sure they still had other stuff that they added to it.
Yeah, you guys just originated, and then it just kept going through the evolutions.
Yeah, when we started with 12 guys, at the end of a certain period of time, I think it was probably the end of 88, going into 89, we had a company commander and an S3 operations guy and a training officer come from the Australian SAS to sort of give us an evaluation and look at our program after the first year, give us some pointers, give us some ideas on how we might do it differently. So they came out, they observed one of our iterations, and then they wrote up their report and their recommendations. And one of the things he said, I can't believe you're doing this with 12 guys.
Huh.
He says, we've sat down and assessed this and wrote everything up.
This was the Australian?
Yeah, the SAS. You need a minimum of 60 people to run this program.
Huh.
We had 12.
Well, with no budget.
With no budget. What are you going to do? We can't pay overtime. Sorry. But yeah, that was, so in the time I left there, from the time I started with 12 to the time we left, I think if we weren't at 60, we were pretty close for assessors. And here's the thing, too. And nobody wanted to volunteer to go SFAS because the command had put it out. Even though you're in special forces and you just came off an A team, in order for you to be able to assess these students, or these candidates, we call them, and look and understand the characteristics and the behavior, you got to go through it.
So somebody like from my era, if I was, 82 when I went through the Q course, 88 is when this started, the selection.
And if
I got pulled back in, I had to go through it too. Oh,
yeah.
Swell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Swell.
Yeah. They didn't like it.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
I can imagine. So did you? You said that the Australian SAS came in. Were you pulling from anybody else to come in to give you guys advice, some new torture tricks?
No, we were pretty good with the torture.
We were pretty good. You got it all. Had that down.
We had that down.
Did you have like PJs come in and help you with anything?
No.
It was all SF guys.
Yeah. And we went through an interesting period too, because I think it was 1989. So Danny, our sergeant major, he'd come from Delta. Colonel Potter had worked over there. I don't know what his position. Danny was an operator. I don't know what Colonel Potter's position was over there. But it came up in conversation that if we have to go through their selection program to be in their organization, they have guys over there that they select from the infantry, come in from the Ranger Battalion, or whatever MOS they have.
Right.
They could be truck drivers. It didn't matter. If they get through the selection, they get through OTC, then they're operational. And they had I don't know if it was a written rule, unwritten rule, whatever it was, but at the 3-year mark, they had to go through the Q course if they weren't already Special Forces qualified.
Delta boys.
Yeah. So I don't know who made the decision. I know that I feel that Sergeant Major and Colonel Potter ran on that. So we started that. They started coming through the program, and that was interesting on a lot of different levels.
So they terminated that. Is that what you're saying? That those guys,
after about the first year, they stopped doing that.
I guess it's just too much assessment at a certain point.
You get to a point. It's like,
it's not cost effective. Going back down to a zero budget thing.
Yeah.
When you start, I mean, I've gone to courses where too many people were not able to meet the standard, and they turned around and said, it's cost a lot of money to run this course. We're going to test them again. JMPI was one, which
the jump master inspection. Yeah.
They had too many people fail it, which was another mind game, because I'm standing waiting to go in, and everybody coming out that other door was going, and I'm going, oh no. There was like just 25 of them just came out. None of them got through it. So I was quite fortunate when I walked out and went.
Yeah.
And so I guess the other guys felt better after that as well. Not many came out before me and said, they got through. Colonel came over and said, look, it's a cost factor too. So we're going to run them through again. They're going to do the same standard, but they're going through again.
Yeah.
I can see that possibly happening with that assessment thing that you were talking about.
Yeah, it's so we had, at the end of the first land navigation portion, we would give them, or we would conduct our first board. And that took some of the guys out. A lot of them, if you're a voluntary withdrawal, you didn't get to come back.
Right.
You weren't invited back.
Right. Quitters don't come back.
No. And then, but if you were boarded and you were strong, but you just wasn't quite there. There were some guys that were boarded that were said, thanks for playing, but you're not coming back. And then we had a lot that were, they were just, you're half a bubble off plumb. We can get you there. Just go back. We'd tell them what to do to improve.
Right.
If you need to work on, your running, or you need to work on your rucks or whatever, we would tell them, work on your land navigation. We'd let them know, and you're more than welcome to come back. And then they'd go through psych eval, then they'd go through all the, team events, and then we'd hold the last board. And again, same kind of thing. Some guys get called back and or given an opportunity to return if they want.
One of the things that I experienced is it's not so much it's not just only the skills, not just only the strength, but there's also a lot of luck. Not
Sure.
Not twisting an ankle, not breaking a leg, not falling off a rappelling tower. A lot of that, scuba school. I remember first run down the road, side of the road, guy rolled his ankle, right in front of me, and I leaped over him. But if I went down with him, I might have mashed up my knee too.
Yeah,
it was just luck.
Yeah,
a lot of that is overlooked, I think, sometimes.
Well, in one of the things you start seeing patterns, and anybody that's been in our community, they know this. You can have guys that come in and they look really swell in a picture. You put that guy in a set of UDTs, man, he's hot.
Yeah.
But you get him in the water and he flails.
Right.
And I've seen guys with 3% body fat come out there and they don't make it past 3 days.
Just burn out.
And then you got guys that are 5'9", 160 pounds, twisted steel, and in 19 days they're standing there and they've been selected. So there's a lot of luck in a lot of different ways. I used to tell people when they were asking me about going to selection, I'd say, don't overtrain. Don't overtrain. You don't need, if you're at peak condition when you go in, you are not going to make it. You don't want to be in peak condition because your body's going to crash. You're going to get 3 hours of sleep a night, 1 meal a day. Your body's going to crash. You need to have a little fat on you.
Well, like
it's worked for us.
We'll probably be able to.
Yeah,
we'll probably to get through it. No, we're not going to get through it now. But when did you retire?
Originally?
Yeah, originally.
June of 2001.
And then where did you go?
I stayed in. My wife at the time, she was a professor at the University of Delaware. So I got my master's degree in leadership, organizational development, did a little consulting work. We ended up not getting married after 10 days after 9/11. So after that happened, I spent a couple of years doing some assessment work on military organizations within the United States that have different weapon systems. So we were doing security assessments on them. And then in 2008, at 51 years old, I came back on active duty to do an Iraq tour.
Thank God you went through that assessment program first.
Yes.
To have to do it again, possibly.
So, that was, and then I came back from that, did a trip to the Congo, took another contract to Iraq, and, came back, and now I'm retired and living a life of leisure.
And doing podcasts with an old friend.
Yes.
Well, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Appreciate it a lot.
And I wanted to let people know that there's a lot of talk out there about SFAS now. You see it on YouTube and stuff. But I wanted them to sort of understand the genesis of the program, why the program came about, cost savings, better soldiers, move the attrition rate out of the Q course up front, sort of how we set the program up with the events, psychological operations, those kinds of things. Not psych ops, but psych evals, and then the boards and stuff, the selection process and the characteristics. I'm not going to discuss that stuff here, but there's certain characteristics they're looking for, and then just what I saw as far as human endurance. I mean, I left after 2 years knowing that if they made it through that program, they're going to be good on a team.
It's certainly a lot different than what I experienced in my training. When I first heard about it, I think we were tuning up to go for Desert Storm when I first heard about it. And they were sending guys trying to get them through that pipeline because they weren't sure how long that war was going to go. They had no idea that they were going to knock them down in 100 hours.
Right.
So they were trying to shove people through that training pipeline. And it was different. They were coming back saying it's different than what, what we went through at the time. And of course, that was what I think it was '89 when they were running them through, or when Desert Storm happened. I believe it was around then. So uh, uh, I guess. I guess this was a learning experience for me as well, because I never talked to anybody about this until today.
Yeah.
I was just here like, they're going to whip and beat you and then put you back in phase one and whip and beat you again. They're going to practice the whip and beating to get whipped and beat again.
Yeah.
So, so this was an educational thing for me. I appreciate it, and I hope the audience enjoyed it as well.
Well, great. I appreciate the talk.
Yeah, thanks a lot, buddy.
All right, buddy.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
All right.